Yeah, so welcome everyone. Thank you for being here with us today. Um, Today we'll be talking about GrizzlyCorps and giving you all a brief introduction and general information about our program while opening up the space for some questions, and hopefully we can provide answers to those questions following. Yeah, so with that, we would like to start by acknowledging that the Fellows of GrizzlyCorps live and work on the ancestral, contemporary, and unceded territory of Indigenous peoples across the state, encompassing what is now known as California. For our current members, these lands include those of Graton Rancheria, Tulamni Band of Miwok, Mountain Maidu, Patwin, Chumash, Yana, Winnemem-Wintu, Paskenta Band of Nomlaki, Tachiyokut, Nisenan, Yurok, Amamutsun, Awaswas, and Pomo peoples. We honor the land and those who have been the original stewards of these regions since time immemorial, and commit to forming deeper partnerships to address past and ongoing land-based injustices through our work. We just want to reiterate that Indigenous communities remain at the forefront of movements to protect Earth and the life it sustains. GrizzlyCorps acknowledges that public recognition and collaboration are necessary steps towards honoring these regions, beginning with the careful reflection of the type of service GrizzlyCorps hopes to encapsulate. We hope to bring awareness to and give a platform to other voices, and remember that tribes have long fought to have their voices not only heard, but included in the creation of this society. And with that, we'll do some introductions of our team. Eliza, if you want to start us off.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining. I'm GrizzlyCorps program manager. I run all day-to-day operations for our program and generally oversee all the AmeriCorps aspects and work very closely with a lot of our project partners. Thanks everyone for joining today.
Thank you, Eliza. And I'm Michelle. I'm GrizzlyCorps program coordinator, and I handle a lot of the kind of day-to-day functions to support Eliza and our program operations, along with providing member support and development as a whole. Rose?
Hi everyone, my name's Rose. I am a GrizzlyCorps fellow, and I'm placed in Tehama County at the Resource Conservation District of Tehama County. And I'm happy to talk with you guys about my experience so far.
Awesome. Thank you, Rose. All right, so with that, Eliza?
Yeah, so this is GrizzlyCorps' first operational year. We were designed over the past few years by our project and program director, who is Ken Alex. Alex is currently the director of Project Climate, which is based out of the Center for Law, Energy, Environment out of Berkeley Law. Ken was formerly a senior policy advisor to Governor Jerry Brown for, I believe, over 8 years. And during his time as a senior policy advisor, he was actually the director of the Governor's Office of Planning and Research, as well as the chair for the Strategic Growth Council. And under his guidance, they actually helped design a program called Civic Spark, which is an AmeriCorps program that's been around now for about 7.5, 8 years. And so GrizzlyCorps was generally modeled off of Civic Spark, but with the idea that we wanted to develop a program that focused on promoting regenerative agriculture and forest and fire resilience in rural California. So that's kind of the background of GrizzlyCorps and why it came to be. And we get a lot of questions why it's based out of Berkeley Law, and it's because our founder was brought to Berkeley Law, and he really felt like that was something that was important to have as an AmeriCorps program that's based out of Berkeley. And so we're currently in our first operating year. Our first cohort of fellows started this September. And our program is running this September through the end of July of this year. And then our next program is going to start at the beginning of this coming September. So as much as it's been our first year, we're planning to continue to grow and expand and continue on for many years to come.
Awesome. Thank you, Eliza. All right. Yeah, so for some background on AmeriCorps and what AmeriCorps is, it is essentially a federal program that is directed for adults of all ages, for people to serve their communities and their country through a network of partnerships with local and national nonprofit groups. AmeriCorps members address needs in literacy, health, housing, technology, the environment, economic development, and many other fields within that. There are a number of AmeriCorps programs all over the country, different types, and GrizzlyCorps is just one of those, which falls under a state and national AmeriCorps program. And we're hosted via California volunteers in California. And overall, AmeriCorps is it's a chance to apply your skills and energy towards helping others and strengthening organizations that are doing that work to make a difference in communities and people's lives. Overall, members really get that indispensable value of learning through service to others while also getting to foster deep community engagement while promoting a commitment to civic responsibility. And with that, we will share a quick video, kind of giving a
So you have questions
summary of
about
AmeriCorps.
AmeriCorps. Well, you've come to the right place, because we're here to help. First off, let's clear up one thing right away. You might be wondering how to say or spell AmeriCorps. Sometimes people pronounce the P, but don't make that same mistake. AmeriCorps is alive and well, just spelled with a silent P. So think of Apple Corps or Core of the Earth. Now that we have that clear, what exactly is AmeriCorps anyways? AmeriCorps is simply Americans of all ages and backgrounds dedicating their time and skills to get things done. There we go. So how does AmeriCorps get things done? More than 80,000 Americans across the country join AmeriCorps each year, and all of them are tackling different problems in different ways. For example, AmeriCorps members help families attain affordable homes. They mentor students so that they stay in school. Perhaps there is a tornado, a flood, a forest fire, or a hurricane. AmeriCorps members also help communities recover from disasters. There's so many more things that AmeriCorps members do, but if we said it all, we'd be here all day. Why do we call them members, you ask? AmeriCorps members spend anywhere from 3 months to a year dedicating their time and skills to serve. They can volunteer with nonprofits, schools, public agencies, and community and faith-based organizations. And in case you were wondering, there are a few perks AmeriCorps members get, including money to pay for college, student loan deferment, training, living allowance, health benefits, and job opportunities with leading employers. Not too bad, right? All right. What's the purpose of AmeriCorps? Like the military or the Peace Corps, AmeriCorps is a way to serve your country. AmeriCorps members make Americans safer, stronger, and healthier, and they strengthen our communities. But above all, AmeriCorps members get things done. That's it. That's what AmeriCorps is. Learn more about AmeriCorps at americorps.gov. So you have...
All right. Where's my recording? Does not want to go.
So you have questions.
Please don't go again. All right. All right, so with that, Eliza will share a little bit of what we do.
Perfect. Yeah, and if anyone has questions about the details regarding our benefits, all of that's up on our website, so you can see exactly what our living stipend is, our health benefits, education award, all that information is up there. So I really encourage you go check out our website to get more of the details about the position. So our program, fellows in our program are focused on 4 things, and then we have four basically offerings of our program. The first is capacity building. So all of our AmeriCorps fellows are placed with one agency, sometimes two agencies, and they're serving for a full 11 months. And their goal is to really build capacity at each of these sites or at their one particular service site. The other goal of the program is not just to build capacity for the specific service site, but it's also to build even larger general community resilience. So we want to make sure that these communities feel like they're prepared for the climate change that is currently happening. And we also want to make sure that the community resilience is equitable. So we send our fellows in to service sites that we feel like are making a real tangible difference in their communities, and that the fellows can come in, build capacity, and make that even greater. The third thing that we do is climate action. So as you'll see, all of our projects, our whole program is developed and dedicated to climate action. So our projects all promote climate action and respond to different threats across California. So we see that as a core function of our program, which is why, as much as most of our programs will focus on regenerative agriculture and forest resilience, some of them will look to just even the broader climate action that can occur across California. And then professional development. As you saw in the video, part of AmeriCorps is building up the next generation of professionals, and we want to bolster the next professionals of climate action professionals. So we really seek to engage recent college graduates. Most people in our program either are graduating the current year that they join our fellowship, or they've graduated in the past couple years. We do have some folks that also have recently switched over into a new career. We offer monthly trainings for professional development. Fellows also receive tons of on-site training, so job opportunities with learnings with their site supervisor that they work with directly, as well as other staff on site. And then we also offer opportunities to jump into conferences. We invite guest speakers. We want to make sure that our fellows leave their term of service feeling like they're prepared to go out into the workforce.
Awesome. Yeah, so with that, we'll go into a little bit of how we do what we do. And with that, we have four core components of how we implement these projects / ways that we do. And firstly, that is through education. And here often there is kind of a teaching / outreach component in some of the projects that we work at. And some of these examples include, for instance, in farm communities, some activities may involve helping farmers learn about the techniques and the benefits of regenerative agriculture, whereas in forest communities, this could be helping community members learn about ecological forestry, including thinning of forests, prescribed burn, and defensible space work, to name a few. Secondly, we have our planning component, where here fellows help with long-term planning goals for your organization and focus on really utilizing that regional knowledge to inform the best course of action for the goals of the community and what that looks like. So here, community resilience is promoted through agricultural and food system planning, as well as ecological forestry practices and fire mitigation plans are some examples of those. Next, we have the research component, where here fellows get to work with researchers within their organizations who are experts of their field. And this includes soil biologists, foresters, ecologists, and many others that are moving parts of each organization that they're a part of to help determine what is most effective as supported through research and practice. And lastly, we use implementation in how we form projects and see them to completion. And here, fellows are able to draw on existing plans that their organizations are already doing and looking at what actions are needed to launch and make progress on projects and programs, and ultimately furthering initiatives that are either already existing or starting them themselves with the help of other folks in these organizations to really help create a visible means to demonstrate progress. And as a whole, GrizzlyCorps really centers place-based knowledge and looking at community development engagement through a localized perspective, which really help build a bigger picture of need for these communities and what the actions are that we need to take in order to help sustain them. And we really include all of our partners and fellows in the decision-making process of getting to figure out what these projects will look like. And Eliza will share some of our focus areas.
Yeah, so we have two focus areas. The first is regenerative agri-food systems, and the second is forest and fire resiliency. You'll find that all of our projects either have a component of one or the other focus area. Some of our projects, as you'll get to hear from Rose, actually include multiple of them, particularly a lot of our resource conservation districts. As Michelle mentioned, we listen to what the communities need. So we understand that different communities have a different understanding of what regenerative agriculture is, or even fire and forest resiliency. And so we do listen to what each of the agencies say, and they get to design the projects around these two focus areas. Perfect. Can we move on to the next slide?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I thought you were still on. My bad. All right. So with that, we'll go into some benefits for fellows generally. And here, this includes professional development opportunities that are presented for fellows, where we have climate change and field-specific trainings for the projects that they're assigned. Additionally, fellows receive direct field experience with supervision / mentorship from those in their organizations. Overall, fellows also receive hands-on community engagement and national service experience. All fellows receive an annual living stipend of around $22,000 paid over the 11-month period, in addition to a $10,000 education award that is used, or it can be used towards further education / student loans after the completion of a full 17-hour term. Additionally, fellows receive forbearance and interest accrual repayments of their eligible student loans that they can use and apply for. If needed, fellows can also receive childcare. All fellows receive health insurance during their term of service, and general just opportunities to develop professional contacts and mentors in the field. On top of everything, we also provide an ongoing community of support through a Slack channel, ongoing monthly trainings with all the other members, and yeah, just reiterating how we want to create a network of like-minded young adults working in a similar field to really open up career development resources as folks start and learn about what they want to do. But yeah.
Yeah, and for some details for the healthcare, if any of you are wondering, we offer medical, vision, and dental, and that is completely free to all of our fellows that want to participate in that program. And then as for the education award, the $10,000, you might look online and see that there's a Siegel education award, which is given out by the federal government, and that's lesson $10,000. That's because we are in California, fellows actually receive two different types of education awards. So one is called the Siegel Education Award, which is given by the federal government. And the one is the California for All Education Award, which matches the Siegel Education Award to be a full $10,000. And even though the budget isn't decided for this upcoming year, that usually happens in June, they've already let us know that it will be funded in California for this upcoming year. So it will be a full $10,000 for this upcoming service year. Great. And so the priority application is open now. It opened on February 1st and it will close on March 31st. We highly encourage everyone to apply during the priority application because as I'll explain in a moment, it really helps out during our interview stage, and it means that priority applicants get offers first. If you feel like you can't make this deadline, we will have a regular application period that will be open from April 1st to May 15th, where applicants can also apply during that timeline as well. Okay, so I'll kind of go through a little bit of the functions of the application. It's a Google form submission, and it's overall a pretty simple application. We ask for your resume. We also ask for project preferences. So you can basically, as you're going through this application, think of where, if you were placed as a fellow, where to live. Are you okay living anywhere in California? Are there certain regions that you would really prefer to live in? We take this pretty seriously in considering different projects. And if you say that you won't live in a certain region unless you tell us that during an interview, it might actually exclude you from a project that you could be really interested in. So consider that carefully in the application. We also ask for 3 short essay responses that are all 500 words or less, describing your experience and your interest in the position as well. These 3 essays are located in a PDF that you can see on our, the join section of our website. So we totally recommend that you go on, write your essays ahead of time before you start the Google form. Since that will be at the end after you've filled out all your information. And it's nice to think about the essays before you have to type them into the Google submission box. The last part of our application is that we ask for at least 2 academic or professional reference contacts. There's a section that you could provide a third. It's not necessary, but if you have a third academic or professional reference, we recommend you put it in. It's always better to have more references if possible than less. As for the interview and project selection, we have 1 phone screen and 2 interviews. The first phone screen is with 1 GrizzlyCorps staff member. The first interview is with a panel. So it's a panel of GrizzlyCorps staff. It'll most always be 2 GrizzlyCorps staff. Usually probably just gonna be me and Michelle. And then the third interview is actually with our project partners. And so how this works is as the folks move through our interview process, we get to know them, their interests, based on their regions, what type of projects they're interested in. And by that time, we'll also have all of our projects listed on our website of who will be project partners for the upcoming year. So you'll have the ability in the middle of the interview process to give us your ranking and do research on all of our project partners. And then what we do as GrizzlyCorps staff is we then look and match different candidates with different project partners and give all of our project partners a portfolio of candidates to interview. So as a candidate, you might interview with 1 project partner or you might interview with a couple of them. And then project partners give us back the ranking of candidates and GrizzlyCorps makes the final decision of where all of our placements are. So it's a lengthy interview process, but we found that it works really well, and we give agency to both our candidates as well as our project partners and where you want to be placed. So it's something that you both get to decide where the placement is. Okay, so regarding application timeline, as I mentioned, application for priority opened on February 1st, and then that priority application will close at the very end of March. In March, we will start doing some first round interviews for folks that applied early to our priority applications. So usually probably some of those phone screens. Starting in April is when our regular application will then open up. In early to mid-April is probably when we'll start doing those, what we're calling second round interviews, which is really just our panel interview with GrizzlyCorps staff members. On May 15th, our regular application will close. And then into mid and late May is when final interviews with project partners will occur for priority applications. So if you're looking to apply during this priority application phase, usually by about mid to late May is when you might be starting to speak with some of our project partners. Early June is hopefully when we'll start giving out some offers for priority applicants. And then early to late June is when interviews will happen for regular applicants. So by this timeline, you can see that when regular applicants are starting to interview, some of the priority applicants, if they were matched for a project partner, might be getting offers. So that's why we encourage signing up for the priority application, since this will all be kind of happening on a rolling basis. And then by July, our goal is to have all offers finalized. Obviously, we know that sometimes projects change, things are delayed, so it could be pushed beyond that, but ideally we'll have all of our fellows know that they're going to be placed with GrizzlyCorps and where they're going to be placed in July. And then in August is a lot of onboarding. AmeriCorps has a handful of requirements, as well as Berkeley, so we'll be in constant contact with all of our fellows. We set up opportunities before fellows start to get to know each other, so have pretty regular newsletters. We'll have some Q&As with current active fellows. All of them will also be connected and get to meet with current fellows as well. And then service starts in September. So fellows will start in September, and then their term of service will then end at the very beginning of August in 2022.
Awesome. Thank you, Eliza, for sharing that. And with that, we will introduce Rose, our GrizzlyCorps Fellow.
Thanks, Michelle, and thanks, Eliza. Hey guys, welcome to this presentation. I'm really excited to be here and share a little bit about what it's actually like to do this work. I will say that all of the positions are really different, so what I am going to be telling you is probably different from what a lot of other people are doing, but I will do my best. So a little bit about me. I grew up in the Bay Area and I went to UC Berkeley and graduated with a degree in political science. And I realized probably 2/3 of the way through my undergraduate career that I really wanted to shift my focus. So I started looking towards a lot of in-person and fieldwork experiences that would get me involved in climate work, and specifically food systems and food politics work. And I found this opportunity and thought it would be a really great experience to get out in the field and really get some hands-on time in the environmental work that I was really interested in. And a lot of that was also sparked by the fact that my family has a business growing grapes in Sonoma County, and we were really affected by wildfires, and actually part of our property burned in a wildfire in 2019. So all of that brought me to GrizzlyCorps, and a lot of the work that I do right now is very personal. So it's been really amazing to kind of get that fieldwork and hands-on experience. So I was really lucky to be placed with an RCD that does both regenerative agriculture and forestry projects. I entered very interested in the agricultural part of the work, and I'm learning that I'm also very interested in the forestry stuff, which is really cool because GrizzlyCorps has allowed me to experience both of those things, both in my placement and also in the many training opportunities that the GrizzlyCorps team provides. So like I mentioned, I work at an RCD, which is a resource conservation district. And each county in the state has a resource conservation district, at least one, some have two. And RCDs are special government districts that are funded just through grant funding, so they don't receive any state or government funding. And this means that the projects shift around really frequently. The funding shifts around as well. So it's a really dynamic work environment where everyone's always on their toes. And the other fellows who work at RCDs share experiences like mine, which is that the projects change super quickly. So one week I'll be working on education and outreach, and the next week I'll be in the field all week doing defensible space and shipping. So it gives you a really diverse work experience. I'm getting to kind of dip my toes in all sorts of different environmental work that I never really imagined I would be doing. So if you want to kind of get a really broad look at a lot of different aspects of conservation work, in RCD might be a good placement for you. Like I mentioned, I do a lot of different things at my RCD, ranging from fieldwork to outreach and education to capacity building work. A lot of the field work that I do, my RCD is particularly focused in fuels reduction work. So I'm out on a crew sometimes doing shipping and defensible space work. So creating space around people's homes that hopefully will protect them in the event of a wildfire. And a lot of our programs focus on providing services to underserved communities. So people with disabilities or elderly community members receive these services for free. So it's a really cool program, and people are really grateful to get that help. I also do some field work relating to plant mitigation stuff that my RCD does. So we'll be doing some plant monitorings, and we also partner with a lot of different organizations. So the work that I do in the field really changes depending on the season and what grants we have going. I also will be starting to do irrigation evaluations. There is a photo of me in an orchard a few slides ago where we test the efficiency of irrigation systems and orchards for free. So a lot of the services that we provide at the RCD are for free. Some of them are fee for service, but they're all with the goal of providing these conservation services in an easy and accessible way to as many people as possible. I also do a lot of outreach and education work. So a lot of our programs, either built into the grant or separate from the grant, engage in a lot of outreach with the community and education with the community. And it's been super different, all of that work. We've done everything ranging from creating science kits for kids during distance learning periods to I've done some work updating our social media and getting our platform more visits. We are currently planning a virtual film festival, so that's been really fun. And my RCD is lucky to have a specific, we have a staff member whose job is to do education and outreach, and that's really cool. A lot of the RCDs don't have that capacity. So that's been really fun to kind of learn from her about what it kind of takes to get visibility as a special government district. And then capacity building. So many RCDs across the state, and even ones that fellows work with, have really different capacities. And I've been working on a project with another fellow in the program, and we've been interviewing RCDs in the Northern Sacramento service area, and it's been really interesting kind of putting all that together and making information available to each RCD about the other RCD's capabilities and building capacity that way through creating more connections, which is very important in the environmental field, especially for RCDs who may be doing all sorts of different projects but share similar end goals. So that's been very cool as well. And then, like Eliza mentioned, there are a lot of training opportunities through the GrizzlyCorps team to broaden your horizons on all sorts of stuff. So during our initial orientation, we received trainings from everything ranging from soil health to prescribed burns to really all sorts of stuff. And it was really fascinating. And I think that's one thing that's been really beneficial to me as someone who doesn't have a formal education in environmental sciences or conservation or resource. I came in with a degree in political science, so a lot of passion for the social issues behind a lot of this stuff, but not as much of the technical knowledge. So it's been really, really cool to receive that technical knowledge from a lot of experts. And I think it's really rounded out a lot of my knowledge. And I'm only a few months in, and I definitely know a lot more than I did when I first got here. So it's been really cool. And I would say the last thing that's been really cool about this process is getting to know my core cohort. And next year's cohort, I'm sure, is just going to be amazing as well. But I work with and now know people who have such a range of backgrounds and experiences and life histories, and bring a lot of different stuff to the table. And it's really cool to bring all of that to talk about stuff like forestry or prescribed burning or agriculture, regenerative ag, or really whatever you want to talk about. Someone else is going to share that interest, and you can just nerd out. And it's been really cool to get to know people. So that's kind of what my experience has been in a nutshell. I'm happy to answer any questions on what it's like to come into the resource and conservation field without a degree in it or anything like that. And yeah, thank you guys again for being here.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, Rose, for sharing your experience. I think that's really invaluable as you are currently on the ground living that day to day. And
yeah, actually, I just got a question from Tess about my red card training. And last week, actually, I just went and got my basic firefighter training, which is another thing that's amazing about Michelle and Eliza, is that they're very supportive for doing all sorts of training opportunities. So I was able to actually use a full week of training hours to go and receive that basic firefighting training. And now I have all those certifications for a red card should I choose to work for an organization that would be willing to issue it to me.
Exactly. Yeah. So with that, it looks like we have another question from Nina. Eliza, should we save the questions for maybe after we go through the projects?
Yeah, we're going to quickly just do like a really quick bit where we describe a few other projects just so you can kind of get the range of what we do. And then after this, we're just going to jump to questions since we're only have less than 20 minutes left. We want to give tons of time for you guys to answer all your questions. We'll answer this right after.
Yeah, so with that, we'll go, these are a few other project examples that fellows are currently working on. Since we're running short on time, we're gonna zip through it. But one project we have at Sonoma Resource Conservation District focuses on policy research, landowner outreach, making education plans, education and youth programs, prescribed burning, field work, a combination of all of the above. Another project, which is CAF, Community Alliance with Family Farmers, based in Davis, focuses on implementing their climate smart farming program, along with research, again, outreach and engagement, facilitating conversations between farmers, soil sampling, data, etc. And another example of a project we currently have is it's with the UC Cooperative Extension in Fresno. Here, our fellow is providing support for small scale and socially disadvantaged farmers in the community. Here, she provides extension support, training, more outreach, policy communication, etc., while also providing COVID-19 response and PPE support to farmers who are in the most need, and also just providing general training around nutrient management, pest management, etc. And yeah, these are just some more pictures of fellows doing some work. We have top left, stream restoration. On the right, fellows doing forest management and post-advisory treatment. At the bottom, we have a fellow working on water irrigation. Yeah. So with that, we're actually going to skip this to leave more time for questions. Yeah, so lastly, we have 25 positions available for the coming year, and these fellows will be placed in over 7 regions with our project partners around the state. Here are some testimonials from current fellows. Yeah, and with that, we would like to open up the space for questions. Yeah, so going back to Nina, what are the eligibility requirements for GrizzlyCorps? Eliza, if you want to
Yes. So we actually have some pretty basic eligibility requirements. You have to be a citizen, national, or lawful permanent resident alien of the United States. This is an AmeriCorps requirement. If you have any questions about this, just let us know. We're happy to, to walk you through if you have any questions regarding that. You do have to be at least 17 years of age. Also be willing and able to pass an FBI, California Department of Justice, potentially out of state, and then a national sex offender public registry background checks. So that all has to be done before we can accept you as an AmeriCorps member. So those are the AmeriCorps requirements. As for GrizzlyCorps requirements, we're looking for folks that have a 4-year degree. It can be a BA, it can be a BS, it can be anything. We have some fellows that studied forestry. We have some fellows like Rose that didn't study anything really, related to forestry or agriculture. That's totally fine. There's really a place for everyone. Also have to have the capability to serve in a professional office setting, and then strong communication and teamwork skills. And that's our eligibility requirements. We prefer if you have a degree in a related field, prefer if you have some past service experience, or even with training, outreach, facilitation, or some quantitative tasks, but that's a preference, not an eligibility requirement.
Yeah, and thank you, Eliza. Our next question is from Hannah, and she asks, for those of us who are doing this as a career change, is there any ability to live near where you work but not actually live in it?
Yeah, absolutely. That will definitely depend on the specific project. Some of our project placements will require a fellow to be in the office or in the field every single day. Some of our project partners for next year are going to be more flexible, either on some of the smaller teams, like some of the smaller nonprofit teams that might be able to offer some like partial remote service opportunities. As long as you're willing to, travel at some point to go do field work or meet with staff, you can definitely live near where you work, but not actually in it. We don't want to, require everyone to relocate if it's a possibility that you could stay in the place that you are. We also, do have a fellow with a child, and it's definitely feasible to have children and still participate in our service program.
And our next question is from Jenna, and she asks, are the project partners the same between this year and next year?
It's going to be a mix of new and old project partners. So our project partner application deadline is on March 22nd, and then we'll be announcing all of our project partners for next year at the beginning of March. We're going to have quite a few of our project partners reapplying for a fellow for next year, but we're also going to have a handful of new project partners that we're really excited about. So going to have different regions join us, but we'll have all the same regions that we currently are serving this year. Going to have some more food systems projects, and then the project partners that we have currently, sometimes their projects will change a little bit. So you might see the same project partner, but a little bit different needs based on what their fellow is able to provide this year.
And our next question from Daca asks, is this open for permanent residents?
Yes, so if you're a lawful permanent resident alien of the United States, you can apply as an AmeriCorps member. I do recommend that you go onto the AmeriCorps.org, AmeriCorps website, and read a little bit more about the AmeriCorps eligibility. You're also more than welcome to reach out to Michelle. We can set up a time to talk if you have more questions.
And our next question comes from Mia, asking whether housing partnerships are provided.
Yeah, so this also depends on our project partner. Some of our project partners that are more remote offer housing at a fairly reduced cost, or are willing to support in finding housing. As a program, we try to ensure that all of our fellows feel like they have the resources to find affordable housing in the region. So we work with all of our fellows and are happy to give them advice and connect them with local folks in the area. So I guess to answer your question, some of our projects will have housing available, some won't.
And Fiona says or asks, would multiple fellows be working with one partner?
So for the upcoming year, we will have a few sites where there'll be multiple fellows with one project partner. I believe we'll have a site in Sonoma County that will at least have probably 1 to 3 fellows serving with them. We'll definitely have a site in Reading that will have 2 fellows. So there's only going to be probably 2 or 3 sites that will have multiple fellows working with one partner, but we are going to have a lot of different counties where there might be multiple fellows in that same county or bordering counties.
All right, and Christina asks, do you recommend providing specific placement preferences in the initial application?
We recommend that you provide specific locations. We have a drop-down bar where you can say what different counties or regions that you'd be willing to live in for the upcoming year. But there won't be a place for you to put your specific placement preferences until you get to the phone screen part of our interview process. And it might actually probably be after the phone screen towards the panel interview.
And next we have Elena asking, would all of the work be in person or will some be remote?
So that's going to depend on obviously the state of COVID-19. I mean, we probably should have brought it up earlier, but we are obviously in a pandemic and that's affected a lot of our projects just depending on where COVID-19 has been affecting each of our counties. Our projects are spread out all over, so there's different stages of lockdowns that have happened over the term of service. So we listen to all of the county guidelines in that area, and we also follow all of the project partner rules and regulations for how they feel like they need to keep their site and staff safe. So it's really going to depend on really the state of COVID-19 when we start in September. We might be in a place where all the service can be in person. We might be in a place where some of the service still needs to be remote. There'll probably be opportunities for some sites to have a mix of remote and in-person, but how our program is built is to be in person when obviously there's not a pandemic occurring currently.
And Mia has another question asking what accommodations are made for those affected by COVID and can't complete the 17-hour commitment.
Yeah, so for this year, we do accommodate those that have been affected by COVID-19. As long as a fellow has served over 50% of their term of service, and if they've been affected by COVID-19, they can still receive their education award and they can actually still be considered to have their term of service successfully completed. We do not know the rules and regulations for next year. AmeriCorps makes these rules every single year. If the pandemic is still affecting service members next year, I'm fairly sure that they will make accommodations for those affected by COVID-19. And this isn't, and by affected, it doesn't mean that you have to have COVID-19. It could be that dependent, it could be a family member, a close friend is affected by COVID-19. And for any reason, you have to either leave the program or take a leave of absence.
And Leslie is asking on whether Daca students can apply.
Yeah, so I should know the answer to this, but I actually don't. We feel free to connect with us afterwards and we can provide you more information. Unfortunately, AmeriCorps is for citizens, national and lawful permanent residents of the United States. I'm not sure if Daca students actually are eligible to apply, but happy to connect and research that further.
And next we have Valeria asking whether fellows, after completing the program, work with the organization/spaces they worked in throughout the 11 months. So this is kind of post-term of service, but reiterating that we are in our first year, so we can't really provide the statistics on that. But if Rose would like to share any of her thoughts on life after GrizzlyCorps, feel free.
None. No,
Living that day to day.
obviously, there's a ton of experience that I'm gaining through this that I will definitely open a lot of doors for me afterwards. But I do know that some people, I mean, I think it's really going to depend on your placement term and the organization that you're working with. I know some people might have things lined up with their organization afterwards, and I know some people might not, and so I think it's really going to depend. But no thoughts on my part.
Thanks, Rose. Yeah, Eliza, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that there might be some positions that will open up for current fellows at their sites if they have funding. I've had a few project site supervisors ask if they're allowed to, and I said, of course. So that does happen. In other programs like Civic Spark that are similar to our program, I think they might have some of those statistics online, but definitely there are a lot of job opportunities after AmeriCorps term of service just based on all the contacts that you gain. And we, in working for other AmeriCorps programs previously, it definitely opens up the doors for gaining a full-time position after an AmeriCorps term of service.
Yeah, and I'll say that the network that that you can gain from the other fellows as well is really invaluable. And we all do a lot of work updating each other on when there's professional opportunities available or job openings. So yeah, there's definitely multiple paths forward after a term of service.
Thank you. And next we have Mike, who is a recent college grad with a background focused more in wildlife biology and conservation. So he's asking if there are any projects with opportunities related to wildlife conservation or ecology, and how competitive would they be for a project focusing on soil science and sustainable ag?
Yeah, so you know, like you mentioned, a lot of our projects do relate to regenerative agriculture and forest and fire resilience. You don't have to have a background in either of those or even knowledge in order to qualify or even be competitive for our program. We're really looking for folks that want to grow and learn and become professionals in these spaces. As for will there be project opportunities related to wildlife conservation ecology, there are some opportunities at some of our project partners that do have related opportunities, but it's typically not a large part of any of the projects, I would say.
All right, and next, Michaela asks if there's a legal component to the environmental work, given the program's connection to Berkeley's Center for Law, Energy, and the Environment.
Yeah, great question. I actually get this a lot. There's not a legal component, but fellows do have access to the Center for Law, Energy, and Environment staff. So if fellows are interested in the legal world, it's not something that they would be doing at all in their projects, but it is something that they can connect with our staff if they are really interested. We also do typically offer a few policy trainings throughout the year, and even have some project partners that do a little bit more policy. It won't be a part of any of the projects that a fellow does, but there is an opportunity for professional development along those lines.
Yeah, and just adding on to that policy component, there are fellows assisting kind of in general research around legislation within their organizations, but there isn't a clear legal requirement for any projects. But with that, Nina asks whether you need to be graduated from college right away or whether you can wait a year or two before applying.
Yeah, so you don't have to graduate this year, so you don't have to be a graduate of 2021, but we do look for recent college graduates, and what we consider a recent college graduate is typically someone who either just graduated or is between about 1 and 3 years after graduation. But we do really want to make this opportunity available to recent college graduates.
Yes, and Lionel asks, during the summer onboarding / orientation period, is there a stipend?
Yes, there isn't a stipend. And so onboarding is really just a series of paperwork. It will be optional, probably meetings or trainings if you want to meet with the fellows, but nothing at all will be required other than a series of paperwork as well as getting the background check. And then orientation is the first start of service. So our orientation will most likely start in the very first week of September. On the very first day of orientation is when your service term starts, and from that day on, you will receive a stipend.
And Bella asks whether fellows work in both an office setting and outdoors doing field work, or is one emphasized more than the other?
So it depends on the project. Some fellows are 100% indoors. Some of our fellows are doing basically all research and outreach or capacity building, and some of our fellows are doing a ton of field work and outreach in person. So it'll depend on the projects, and we'll have detailed project descriptions once they're announced in early April.
And just to add to that, I recommend if you get to the stage where you can interview with the project partners, asking them and being clear about what your expectations are and what their expectations are about the amount of field work or office work that you're going to be doing.
Thank you, Rose. And Georgia asks whether we recommend focusing your application on one of the two specific focuses, or if you have a general interest in either, what would be, if it would be more beneficial to focus on one?
No, there's not a benefit. We don't look at a candidate more favorably if they chose one of our tracks. This is really just a way for us to understand where the interest is. Is it mostly general? Is it really focused? Are we getting no one that's interested in forestry and everyone that's interested in regenerative agriculture? It's really just for us to know, and it's also for us to kind of frame our conversation when we first do phone screens and interviews with candidates.
Yeah, and Nicole asks whether there are scheduled calls / meetings to provide the fellows opportunities to engage with each other.
Yeah, Rose, do you want to speak on that?
Yeah, there's tons. There's a lot, and it's really great. We recently started joining committees, which is another fun way for us to kind of all be involved in what we're interested in. So there's committees, like I'm on a forestry committee that's really interesting, or like a bonding committee. So there's stuff like that. A lot of fellows will kind of just reach out and have informal meetings. I kind of like to make excuses just to call other fellows and chat with them and network a little bit, and that's a lot of fun. There's also the trainings, and then our monthly meetings as a whole cohort, kind of just going over what we're all working on and how the term has been. So yeah, there's tons of opportunities, and I think it's also the amount of effort that you put into it as well. And I hope that during the next service year, there will also be opportunities to meet up in person a little bit more, which is something that unfortunately our cohort hasn't been able to do as much as we would have liked.
Yeah, and just adding to that a bit, we also have an ongoing Slack channel for fellows to share resources, provide commentary, updates, whatever it may be, with a bunch of different channels, kind of giving people opportunity to share and learn from each other. And next, Tess asks, with these projects, are you working mostly in a planning capacity, or are you participating in these projects in more of a boots on the ground capacity?
So it's all about building capacity, and it really depends on what project you're part of. Some of our fellows do, have boots on the ground capacity. Like Rose mentioned, she's out in the field some days, but there's also parts of her project that's about building larger, like planning capacity. So the implementation part of our program is that working in the field aspect of it. But it's really a mix. So some of our projects are 100% planning capacity type of work, where the fellow actually doesn't really do any field work at all. And then some of our sites are, sometimes half or even more of the time spent as a fellow is doing more boots on the ground type of service work. So it's all going to depend on the project. If you go on our website, you can read through all of our current projects right now, and you'll see that every single one of them is completely different.
And Mia asks if we accept mid-year applications.
So if we had a position that would open, we would accept a mid-year application. We have all of our fellows that started in September are still serving with us currently, so we aren't going to have any mid-year applications available. If something happens in the first few months of a service term next year, if we had a mid-year application open, it would most likely be open in February of next year. Currently, we don't have any openings.
Yeah, and lastly, Danica asks, can graduate students apply as well?
Yeah, so we also accept graduate students with the understanding that a lot of these projects are built for recent college graduates, but there is flexibility around the projects to grow. So currently we have two students or two master's degree graduates in our program. And we found that their projects really have been able to kind of evolve around their knowledge and sometimes give them more opportunity for publishing papers or doing more research at their sites. So we do accept graduate students if they're interested and feel like this could be a really good opportunity for them to grow and learn. We also do have a couple fellows that are either finishing up their graduate programs or they've just started them. So we have found that starting a master's degree, particularly some of the online degrees, can also be a good opportunity for a GrizzlyCorps fellow to do that in tandem with your term of service. But it is absolutely not a requirement to have a master's degree, but it also won't be something that eliminates you from being eligible.
Yeah. With that, do we have any more questions that folks have? If so, feel free to share. And our emails, me and Eliza's, are on the screen. So feel free to, and Rose just put hers in the chat as well. So feel free to reach out with any specific questions. And yeah, overall, GrizzlyCorps is a really exciting opportunity to potentially travel and immerse yourself in new places and meet the most urgent needs of the climate while getting to connect with new communities, similar people doing that work, and making it a direct impact. So yeah, with that, thank you all for your time. Sorry for going over a little, but hope we answered all of your questions. And yeah, feel free to reach out to us whenever, and we're looking forward to hearing from you all.
Wonderful. Thanks, you all.
Bye, everyone.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, it sounds like we have a call in.
I have a question.
Please.
Yeah, because I'm calling in. Are your emails posted on the website, or how can I follow up? Or if you just tell me one, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Both of our emails are on the website in our staff section, but if you want our actual emails, mine is Michelle Feng at berkeley.edu, Feng spelled F-E-N-G, no spaces. And Eliza, if you want to say yours.
Yeah, and mine is Eliza, Eliza, dot Munger, M as in Mary, Unger, at berkeley.edu. So feel free to reach out to us. As Michelle said, we're happy to answer any questions. If you have are concerned at all about your eligibility, or if you feel like the program would be a fit, just feel free to ask us. We're happy to talk you through to see if this is going to be the right program for you.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to follow up with me, hear a little bit more about my term of service, feel free to reach out to me at my email as well. I'm happy to continue talking with you.